Yeehaw! Yes, it is Thursday. It is 9. So, of course, that means it's UK Cowboys time. How we doing? Friendly panel of people a little bit confused and frustrated right now.
Yeah,
A
a
little
little
bit.
bit little bit subdued after today's news, but otherwise good.
Otherwise, good. Yeah. Yes, we are gonna quickly get into the show because we do have a very special guest with us from blogging the boys all the way over in Dallas, who is going to talk with us and help guide us through today's challenge of talking about the news. It's Mr. RJ Ochoa. How are we, sir?
I have been better. If I'm being honest with you, the sky is falling. Our pets' heads are falling off.
Yep,
It's
that's right.
about as worse of a situation as things could possibly be, and I think beyond being bad, it's frustrating because it was completely and totally predictable.
Yep.
So you
What?
Yeah. We're 4,500 miles over here, and we could see this coming.
I mean I don't know what to say. I admire the optimism and positivity of some people that are still kind of the mindset like, hey, you know, how could anyone have seen this coming? I admire that. I aspire to be that way, to live my life that way. But it's really frustrating. And what for me, um, what's terrifying is this one thing was incredibly predictable. So what about the other things that we've complained about that have seemingly been incredibly predictable? Are those going to blow up in this team's faces just the same way that Tyron Smith did? Because if they're following that pattern, then this season is not going to be that much fun.
Okay, well, there's a beautiful segue. Let's cut straight into this. The Cowboys this week cut kicker Lareem Harulahu. So now we only have Brett Maher. How does everybody feel about that?
Nervous to begin with, anyway. Obviously, see how he does in this next preseason game, and then if he screws the pooch on that, then you get a kicking carousel coming in.
Again.
You still got another 10 days or so until the kickoff. So you do
There's the
potentially
crazy
have.
part, Lorne. You say there's 10 days. Like, we should not be this close to the season, and we have not decided who the kicker is yet.
Well, but think back to when Dan Bailey got it. Dan Bailey was one kick, and he would have been out the door. There was a kicking carousel. There was 4 kickers brought in because he'd fluffed a kick on the week before or something like that. Came in, and he beat out the rest of the competition, and that was it. And that was him until the back issues started. We've never had a coach specifically for kickers since that point on, I would say, and that's probably where the problem is as good as Bones Fassel is on the special teams and the sort of trick plays that you have with the special teams. You need somebody perhaps who needs to actually school the kickers.
Well, here we go.
And just work with them, work on the mindset as well. I think obviously the 2 guys that we've had that have already left, there's been issues with their confidence, I think.
Well, here's to find out if any of you were paying attention on last week's show. And I gave you this fact. And let's see if RJ gets this as well, mind. Do you know how many teams in the NFL, not a special teams coordinator, but what we're talking about is kicking coaches, specifically just to coach for kicking? Do you know how many teams have a kicking coach in the NFL?
I think there's only one, isn't there?
Correct. Can you believe that, RJ?
I can't, but I can't believe a lot of things. I mean, I feel like Doctor Strange in the one universe that was like the weird geometric shapes or whatever. That's what this whole like week and day has kind of felt like.
Yeah, but I'll let you weigh in, Rich, before we move this on. Yeah, how do you feel about the kicking situation?
Not very excited.
You sound it.
The the bit that really sort of sold it for me today was when I was just scrolling through Twitter as you do, wake up in the mornings, and catch up on everything from last night. And Brett Maher had a pretty good night. He made a lot of his kicks, all of them from 40 plus yards out. So I'm like, oh, so you're not giving him any sort of practice in proper field goal? Right? Okay, sweet. Yeah, later. Let's don't let him make him practice the stuff he's bad at. Let's just put some good stuff out there to make ourselves feel better.
Like the bread and butter kicks,
Yeah, it's that wasn't the concern about him. The concern was the shorter stuff, the stuff he should be making in and out, the bread and butter stuff, and he doesn't seem to be doing it. And moreover, it's oh yeah, he was really, really good. Or had a good night, and it's that doesn't fill me with confidence. It gives me even more dread, because that means he's just not getting any practice in where he needs it.
Yeah, Andy hit the upright yesterday as well from 58 yards, so he's shown the propensity that he had back when he was kicking for us the last time. Where the last thing we want is a Chicago situation with a double doink.
It doesn't look like much has changed. Which doesn't fill you with confidence, put it that way.
Yeah, that's for sure. But then some good news: we got to see Turpin on the weekend do what he did. So a kickoff return and a punt return for a touchdown in one game. Only the third time in NFL history that's ever happened. So big tick on the box on that one.
And what a big thing for him. I mean, you've gone through 3 developmental leagues, Europe, USFL, whatever. You come in, you're an undrafted free agent, and at the end of the first half of the second preseason game, they're telling you to take your kit off and go and sit over there with Dak Prescott and everything because you've made the team effectively.
Yeah. RJ, has this ever happened? Has a player ever been asked to take their pads off after just 2 plays and about what was he on the field for, 20 seconds? I mean, has that ever happened to an undrafted free agent, the 20 seconds worth of field time? And they're just go get changed. Go sit down with Dak and CD and Zeke.
Probably not. It was a really unique thing. I will say, obviously what happened on Saturday was electrifying, but I kind of thought his spot was safe already. The way they kind of were talking about him was as if he was already on this team. So the notion that he went from not on the roster to completely safe, I think is a little exaggerated, but you're right. I mean, he clearly went from, being kind of just a guy on the team to extremely and inordinately valuable.
Yeah, and the other thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, which I think is quite important, is it wasn't just those 2 plays. I mean, they were the most electrifying, and that makes the highlight reel, and NFL Twitter change its headline and all the rest of it, its bio. But one little piece that people didn't pay attention to was he actually caught a pass, and it only went for 9 yards. But it's actually what that did. If you watch, it was basically just a kind of almost like a tunnel screen. And he zipped it out to him fairly quick. And I think I read somewhere that on Next Gen Stats, that play has the estimated play of -2 yards. And it went for 9 yards.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people will talk about that. I think that was quite important because it goes to show how they're going to use him as well. Do you know what I mean? On this Lucky Whitehead type role with the jet sweeps and the extended handoffs, if you like. But yeah, be interesting to see. I don't think he's playing this weekend. But we'll quickly talk about Seattle, then we move on to the Tyron Smith news, and we'll discuss that. In terms of this weekend, RJ, give me either a position or player, or perhaps something on the coaching side you're looking for this weekend from the Seattle game, which, by the way, is 1:00 in the morning.
I always have admired all of your commitments and and loyalty. I mean, last week's game ended at 1 a.m. here, and I felt kind of gassed. So that was quite the challenge, for me. But I mean, without jumping to the Tyrant thing, I mean, I think I've seen everything I need to see defensively. I don't know if they're still in any kind of mood to move on from Kelvin Joseph or Nashawn Wright. I suppose that would be kind of the one thing there. Obviously, I want to see Brett Maher and see what he has to offer. I don't know that any of us should allow ourselves to be swayed just by one performance, but still. And then offensively, I mean, can TJ Vasher make this team? Can Dennis Houston make a bigger case for himself? Can Noah Brown stave off getting cut? So those are all the things I'll be paying attention to.
Yeah. All right. Rich, give me yours. What are you looking for this weekend?
I'm a bit of a mix-up. For me, it's between Vasher and Houston, because when we were going through, myself and Brian and Graham were going through the 53, the bit that I struggled the most with was who that last receiver was really going to be. That was that I struggled with. I kept going back and forth, and I kept getting hung up on it. And for the love of God, I want Josh Ball to give me some kind of confidence. That would be brilliant. But I'm not gonna hold my hopes out for that one.
All right, Lon.
Yeah. I think the one for me, I mean, obviously, on the back of the last couple of games, I think Malik Davis has probably worked his way into a roster spot. So you're maybe talking about 4 running backs. That means you've got to go light somewhere else. And probably the best place to go light is maybe quarterback. So I'm maybe looking that we're only going to have 2 on the roster this year. At least, and then hopefully bring somebody up onto the practice squad. So I want to see Will Grier turf it out with Cooper Rush. I think whoever throws an interception or has a fumble or whatever, I think that's going to be the deciding factor, to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have, obviously, you're playing with the second and third strings. It doesn't have to be neat and tidy, but just the cardinal sin of turning the ball over is what you need to watch out for here, and that will be the difference between your P45 or.
Just in case you're wondering, RJ, P45 is basically like your walk-in papers from work.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I always enjoy learning about international protocols.
Does Rush not need to have an absolute real stonker of a game, though? Like, absolutely terrible, given the fact that he's probably favored because he's a vet and he won a game.
I know what you're saying. Like the coaches, I think
they'll just love known quantities.
I just think they're sort of head to head at the moment. And ironically, I think it was a bit of Will Grier was a bit ahead of the game. I don't know what you think about this, RJ, but I think Will Grier prior to last week's game was like he was QB2, like the sort of addition by subtraction sort of thing, because he didn't play. So because he didn't show both the good and the bad, and Rush was so bad, it was like, Will Grier's at the moment QB2. What do you reckon, RJ?
I think Will Grier's most redeeming quality, both last week and at present time, is simply that he's not Cooper Rush. I mean, that sounds aggressive, but I think it's the truth, and I think it's just that he presents another option. Like Cooper isn't just somebody who started the game for the Cowboys last year and won it. He's somebody who's been around the organization for a long time. We know full well who Cooper Rush is, and we've kind of seen all that there is to be seen there. And I think we're all willing to, kind of, you ever get like, we go get like ice cream. It's like we've got vanilla or we have the mystery flavor. Like, I don't know what the mystery flavor is. I mean, it could be terrible, but at this point, I've had vanilla over and over and over again. I'm just kind of ready for any other sort of adventure. And so that's kind of where I stand. I think that Cooper's probably better right now. I think he's played better, but I don't trust that. He might have a marginally higher floor, but I want the guy with the higher ceiling, and I think that's Grier.
Yeah.
I think this is almost a mirror image of last season. Both guys have got a sponsor. Kellen Moore, Cooper Rush was his first sort of backup QB when he became QB coach. or even he was on the roster, I think, at the same time.
Mhm.
And then Nussmeier's obviously the sponsor of Will Greer. It's almost like a repeat of last season where Cooper Rush has started the last couple of games. It's not done the best job, and maybe Will Greer comes in and nicks the job in the last week, much like Cooper Rush did last year over Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah. Because that was another weird one as well, mine. But yeah, totally agree. And then for me personally, I want to know what's going to happen between Rico Dowdle and Malik Davis, because I think that's going to be quite important with that third running back. That's going to be quite important this year. So, okay, let's move on to the big news of the day. And we found out today as well that not only is Tyron Smith injured, it was a non-contact injury, went down, looked quite nasty. Got up in his usual fashion, and apparently people were not too bad about it. Gone in depth, had a scan today. Apparently, they're saying earliest could be December, more likely season-ending injury. What's the news you're getting though from it, RJ, over there?
Well, so I mean, I do think it's somewhat important contextually. This news broke, I imagine, maybe right before you guys were waking up, because I know you guys get up, make the pot of coffee. You guys are up at the crack of dawn. But this happened just before midnight, at least in the Central Time Zone. And so, I mean, you're right. I think everybody was about to go to bed under the presumption that this was all good. Connor McGovern had the comment that everything was fine. Or at least, seemed fine. I think that, December is being wildly hopeful. And the most disappointing part of it is the reporting from David Moore of the Dallas Morning News is that the Cowboys are operating under the presumption that Tyron's going to be back. And look, I mean, I think I speak for the four of us. We all love Tyron. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. Wish him health, wealth, and happiness in life. But that is so dumb and irresponsible to just at this point count on that, to bank on that. You cannot. I mean, this is now 7 years in a row that he has missed time in some way, shape, or form. You have to assume he's gone for the rest of the season, forever, maybe at this point in time.
Possibly,
and so not coming to terms with that is kind of the same inability to make hard decisions in this type of arena that we've seen from this team a lot in the past.
Yeah. Go on, Ron. Hit me with it.
I mean, this diagnosis that he might be back in December. I mean, Mekhi Becton had it last season or a couple of years ago anyway, and it's a similar injury there. He's only he'll be 25 now, and he managed to come back in that time scale. But Tyron's now 31. That's asking a hell of a lot, as your body takes longer to repair as the older you get. What's been slightly concerning to me is you've seen clips in training camp where Dorrance Armstrong's been getting the better of Tyron Smith. You've seen the other players getting the better of Tyron Smith. I think there was a drop off this season. I mean, again, he's been the back twinges and OTAs. It just seems to be a long catalogue, and I think the wheels were going to come off at some point, as we expected.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Willetsko, has a subluxation, that great, he's come back to practice this week, but that was probably a monitor him and see whether he needs to stay on the 53 or he needs to go and get the shoulder surgery immediately, because I mean that's something that's not actually going to get better. You heard on Talking Cowboys yesterday, Isaiah Stanback has had that injury during the start of his career, and he was told that even just opening the car door, it can pop out. So it's not something. Essentially, at some point, you are going to need to have surgery on it. And it's just a case. And do you really want, potentially your new starting tackle, or at least your swing tackle, coming in and having to wear a brace to hold that shoulder in place? That really is concerning. And I saw RJ, you tweeted, obviously, the Cowboys thought they had a plan in place. What? Yes, we were never going to spend the cash, and this is obviously the big problem is we don't spend cash. We're not flash with free agencies anymore. But, they had a plan in place. All being well, Josh Ball would have come in. You were expecting big things from him. That's not materialised. You were expecting things from Willetsko when we picked him up. He was looking that way. And again, we've been hit a curveball with that. You look at other teams around the league. I mean, obviously, our week one opponents, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers they've lost 2 offensive linemen for the season as well, so they're going to be struggling. I'd actually sent a message to one of my friends yesterday, sort of commiserating them on the fact that he'd lost 2 linemen, and he came back to me this afternoon with the same thing. So, it's just the way of the league, and this is, as I said before, this is why you're not seeing necessarily the best play from these spring leagues that are set up, the USFL, the AAF, etc. Is because there isn't that level of talent in offensive linemen. It is slim pickings, and it is a buyer's market to go out and get free agents, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know you said there about the plan. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know what the plan was. Like, we know my son is nearly 5 years of age. His entire life, he's never known Tyron Smith to play a full season. Yeah. I think for me, that's long enough for you to say we need a plan for Tyron Smith. And it seemed to be they went, okay, we got Tyler Smith in the first round. Oh, right. Okay, we've used a compensatory pick on Matt. Well, let's go there. And it kind of just stopped there. And it was just like, what, was that your plan?
Yeah. The only real thing that makes sense to me in regards to Tyron, because I've been saying, Graham's been saying, Brian's been saying, a lot of people have been saying for years, you need someone behind him as an heir apparent, a proper pick, even a first-round pick, because he's going to go down at some point and then they're going to come in and there's going to be that natural transition because this can't keep going on. Jerry has literally just let go in the past offseason 2 very good players on the basis of one of his favorite sayings of the best ability is availability. He let go Cooper and Lyle Collins because of availability, so he says, or at least a very big part of it. Now, the only real way I can make this make sense in my head is the fact that they were just going to address everything else, wait for Tyron to retire, and then the very next draft, obviously he retires at the end of the season, the draft, then they just go and get the best left tackle they can, be it a vet, ideally be it in the draft, and he just starts there and then, like Zach Martin did, like Travis Frederick did, like Tyron Smith did, and plays a full season, ideally. That's the only way I can make it make sense. Any kind of sense. I don't agree with it, but that's the only way I can see there being some sort of plan.
Yeah. Go on, RJ. I know you was about to talk.
Well, first of all, I need to say Richard has incredible initials. If the 89 is for your year of birth, then I highly support the year that you were born in as a fellow 32-year-old.
Does RJ? So RJ, does RJ in your name stand for Richard Jones?
It doesn't. My first name is Roel, Roel, and I'm a junior. So that's where the RJ comes from. So
I've always wondered what RJ stood for. Now we found out.
So my dad's Roel, obviously, as well. He goes by Roy. So my son, my wife, and I had a baby boy in November. We actually call him Roel. Took 3 tries, but he gets to go by the name since neither my dad nor I used it. But I just don't. I think it's so generous to say that they had a plan. I think what I think a lot about is like when we get like ready for the Cowboys to go to training camp, every year people will say, I think insert, late round pick is going to challenge for the roster. And there's no like reason to think that. And I think that some people oftentimes confuse hope with thought. Those are not the same things, right? Like they're conveying what they want to happen as this thought. No, you don't. You have no logical reason to think this. You just want it to happen, so you're confusing yourself. And I think that's what happened here. I mean, for whatever reason, they banked on Tyron playing an entire season despite, a mountain of evidence. They pinned their swing tackle hopes, and people complain like, why are you talking about this? Does every NFL team have a starting caliber swing tackle? No, but does every NFL team have a left tackle that's missed time 6 years running? Like you have to prepare for the extenuating circumstances. And so the plan truly was a combination of two dudes who had no experience whatsoever in the NFL. They didn't even adjust when Matt Waletzko went down. If when Waletzko had gone down, they had said, you know what, we were going to try this out. It didn't work. Let's bring in a veteran right now to be somewhat prepared. They didn't adjust then. They didn't adjust 2 weeks ago when Tyron had the ankle flare-up in the joint practices with the Denver Broncos. They have literally waited until he is effectively on the operating table for surgery to say, well, we got to do something, right? Like that. It took all the way until that. And so, it's, people say they don't care about winning. They only care about making money and things like that. They the precious pie. There's no logic. I share your sort of confusion, Richard. It's impossible. You cannot tell me how what they have done over the last few months makes sense. You cannot spell it out in any way towards them becoming a better football team. And, people suggest their motivations are to tank in the name of Sean Payton. I don't know. That doesn't hold water for me. But this was there. We had an Instagram post that went out a little bit before I joined you guys, and a line I wrote in there is, they're the only people in the world I know who, if it were raining outside, would go out not dressed for the occasion without an umbrella and then complain that they were wet. That's just kind of where we're at here.
Completely agree.
Yeah, go on, keep going, Rich.
No, as I said, I completely agree. It's nice to have someone else come on that's not obviously one of the regulars, one of us guys. There's not me or Graham, or even Brian coming on and saying this. It's really, really nice because it means I'm not just a whiny ass saying the same thing every week for years on years. But again, that shows we've been saying the same thing week in, week out for years on years, and nothing's changed.
Not to interrupt you, Richard. Sorry, I forgot about that. But Pete, that's my mentions all offseason have been filled with stop complaining, stop whining, get over it. Get over the Amari trade. Why? Like I want this team to win more than I want most things in life. And so it's frustrating that they're going about this. And it would be one thing, again, if they moved on from Amari, if they moved on from Lyle, and then they, there was a down to merit what went up, but there hasn't been. It's just purging. They made their roster worse, and now that roster has taken a toll. And so it's kind of hard to imagine where they go from here. And you can make a loose argument, as you kind of alluded to, Mike, that maybe Tyler Smith is the plan. Okay, then why'd you let Connor McGovern walk? Or excuse me, Connor Williams walk. Connor McGovern.
Like Lyle Collins. Why?
Yeah, because Tyler Smith cannot play two positions at once. He's either your left guard or your swing tackle. And so if Tyler Smith truly was, if you were sold on him from the very beginning, we have to have this guy out of Tulsa. We don't care about penalties, blah, blah, blah. We need him. He's the left tackle of the future. Then you should have kept Connor Williams, because you can't, this team has always planned as if, the best case scenario will happen, as if their 22 starters will remain healthy across the entire season. And that just isn't the case. And they've almost on purpose designed the challenge of having to survive that way, all in the name of I don't know, their own belief system. Yeah. And the people that it affects, besides obviously all of us as fans of the team, are Dak Prescott's going to be affected. Hey, Dak, good luck without Tyron, without Lyle, without Amari, without Connor Williams, with a rookie in Tyler Smith, with a rookie in Jalen Tolbert. Dak, go save us. It's frustrating to watch this horror story unfold. This is in a horror movie where the person, knocks out the bad guy, and you're thinking, you got to chop their head off. What are you doing? Leaving the gun right there. But the Cowboys do it over and over and over again.
Yeah. They don't double tap.
They don't double tap. They don't double tap the center mass and then go, no, they don't do that. They don't do sensible things like that. Like you said, it's a horror film. It's like, why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. I don't really agree with a single decision they've made in terms of the pre-existing roster this year. Every decision they've
Certainly
made
for the
has
offensive
made
line.
the team worse. I don't know why. The reasons he gave for dropping Amari and Lyle, disagree with, especially when you, by the same logic, you keep Tyron Smith for multiple years.
Tank.
I mean, frickin' A. You created a problem. At wide receiver. No excuse, no argument. You created that problem. You created an issue potentially on the defensive line by letting Randy Gregory go. I know there's an argument there, but I still think they probably should have done a bit more there, really. And Lyle Collins never should have left the building. Simple as. I don't agree with a single decision they made this year in terms of the existing roster from preseason. It's been terrible, absolutely terrible.
And the most annoying part about this is if you go back to, the Travis Frederick, Doug Free era, if you like, look how good that offensive line was.
Yeah.
And they've just let over just a period of a couple of seasons. I know it was a bit longer than a couple with Doug Free, but certainly with Travis Frederick, that the distance from that is so short and that it's crumbled so fast under their feet.
Yeah.
You just think like you must have seen the foundations coming away from this. How have you not had the foresight when I'm not an NFL coach and I could have seen this coming?
Yeah. And we've discussed this before, and we've literally made the point that that's happening, and it happened over 2-3 seasons. The big problem there was the fact that it was amplified that Travis Frederick left earlier than he was supposed to. That is what it is. Hope he's okay, by the way. But yeah, it's absolutely terrible. It's been completely neglected for years, the entire position group. It hasn't been properly addressed to any real degree until really they just took Tyler.
The question here is what is the next step? What is the way to go forward from this?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, you could kick Tyler. I mean, the simplest solution is a veteran by way of free agency or trade to play left tackle. That impacts the least amount, or that features the least amount of fallout as far as the rest of the line are concerned. If you're, Tyler Smith is an option, but again, what damage do you do to him if he doesn't play well? I mean,
he's a rookie as well,
right? I mean, so he's not only a rookie, but he's kind of like the only thing you have with regards to the future. So you really want to kind of sacrifice him that way. That would be bold, but okay, so maybe that's one plan. Tyler Smith at left tackle, Connor McGovern at left guard. Or maybe your plan is, if you don't like Connor McGovern that much, a free agent to play left guard if Tyler Smith kicks out. The true, let's flip things upside down and kind of look at the world is have Zach Martin or Terrence Steele play left tackle. And so if you move Martin out, obviously, then you play McGovern at right guard, and a lot of people think he's better there than he is on the left side anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one option, but obviously that's a tall order to place on Zach, 2 weeks before the regular season starts, which I don't know why you would have addressed this, months and months ago.
Yeah.
You could flip Terrence over. He's done it, obviously, and then just kick Zach out, stay on the right side, whatever, but from guard to tackle, and then still play McGovern there. That's it though. I mean, it's we've all kind of had that meal where you had a few things in the pantry and the fridge, and you're like, we've got to make this whatever. Like this is that episode of Chopped. I don't know if y'all get Chopped over there, but
it sounds good.
Chopped. It's a show. It's a cooking show, and they give them like these random ingredients, and they have to make an amazing meal. So the challenge is like connecting these strange ingredients that they don't necessarily go to.
It's like can't cook, won't cook. Then
what was the old school one we had with Ainsley Harriott?
Yeah, can't cook.
Ready, steady, cook.
That's what it was.
I can't validate that at all. But again, it's like here's mac and cheese, cinnamon toast crunch, and a piece of tilapia. Make something, and then that's the challenge. But so that's kind of what this is.
But yeah, very good point.
Yeah, and we got to learn about Chop too. So it's all a learning experience, yeah. I mean, like, here's the problem. Like, you say about moving it all around. The other problem I have with the offensive line as well is we were talking about this with the guys who were on the show last week. Is that they keep moving the offensive line players in and out, and they're doing it on preseason as well, which I kind of get in the preseason. You're trying to find these down roster guys, what they're made of. But when it comes to your offensive line, I just want I want cohesiveness. I want communication. You want them to be cooperative with each other and to have an understanding of what their levels are. You don't do that if you keep moving them all around. And now here we are, like literally 3 weeks from playing the Bucks, and they still haven't done it. There's still no cohesion.
Yep.
It goes back to the thing that really, I think, like the Tyron Smith injury, that is just like the perfect the perfect exclamation point on all of this, of that they had no plan for the offensive line, that there doesn't seem to be one. I don't get what the means to an end of what all of this is. Do you know what I mean, RJ?
I mean, they have often reminded me of Frank Sinatra, right? Like they're doing it their way. You know what I mean? Like they don't care.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, like that they want to do it their way. And you know what? It's Jerry's team. It's his money. You know what I mean? Like he's got every right to do with it what he wants, but it defies logic. I mean, it truly does. I mean, it's not difficult to look at other teams and how they, try to right wrongs. I mean, you look at the an example I've used at least this offseason, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills lost a ticket to the AFC Championship game by seconds. I mean, like, literally seconds.
Yeah.
And what was their response? They said, we're going to go get Von Miller because we don't ever want to fall second short ever again. We're going to overpay to do it. Cool. Who cares? We win the Super Bowl. It'll totally be worth it. Doesn't matter. Right now, we're here. We have the quarterback. We have everything we need. We're all in. Despite the fact that they play in the more competitive conference, I mean, I really admire that. And the Cowboys on the opposite side of that spectrum, sort of, it feels like they look at the context of the situation and say, well, we don't even have to try that hard to win, right? Like, like you ever like in school, say, well, I don't even have to study, right? Like I can get like a C. I don't know your grading system. We've talked chopped and everything, but like I can pass the class, I can pass the test without breaking a sweat. Who cares if I get an incredible score or not? I'm just here to pass. That's kind of what the Cowboys sort of feel like. It's a bummer because it kind of dampens the excitement that we all are kind of wanting to feel with the season being so close. But it's tough. It's tough to believe that their way of thinking is going to work out when this one example has already blown up in their face.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all harks back to Jerry's, his oil baron, take a punt on something that somebody's already tried. It's dried up for him. He reckons there's still a well there to tap, and I think that's his. He's willing to take that risk, and I think that's what we're seeing here. And it looks at the moment, it looks like it's backfired, and until we get under battle conditions, and you never know, you might catch lightning in the bottle, but it's certainly looking doom and gloom at the moment. And certainly Brian came on the chat today and said that's it, the season's over. So Brian's going to be doom and gloom for the rest of the season. So.
Yeah. Well, RJ, I know you've got to shoot. You've got a Manchester United game to go rewatch.
That's
right.
Have no problem.
We went there.
Why are you
I
going
have
to do
no
him
problem
like
admitting that I experienced great joy at the hands of great sadness from Liverpool, and I'm totally fine with that. If you could, please congratulate Jamie for me on Leeds and their big victory over Chelsea. I have some great friends who are big Chelsea supporters, and so it was But I will say, you can let Jamie know the only reason it happened is because there's an American in charge. You put that proper red, white, and blue there, and things work itself out. So,
all I'm saying is Jamie's out of game drinking beer, so I am not going to phone him right now. He's hard enough to understand sober.
Right. Well, please tell everybody hello. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to talking to you guys throughout the season.
Yes,
Likewise.
we'll get you on again when we've got a bit more time. But make sure everybody you go and follow Blog in the Boys. Go listen to RJ podcast, YouTube, Facebook, probably on SoundCloud if it's still out there.
You know what? That's in the process. We're working on our rap album right now. So, but yeah, thanks, guys.
Nice one. All right, I'll speak to offline, RJ. Nice one. Cheers, mate. So yeah, yes, we're trying to sync through this episode, talking mostly about Tyron Smith. But yeah, I mean, what we could do is we can have a look forward. I know we mentioned already briefly, but we'll fill out the rest of the show now with obviously talking about this week's game, Seattle, 1 a.m. kickoff. I think, to be honest, you're looking at the down roster guys, really, aren't you? I mean, they're not going to be starting. I like fair to say Turpin isn't even going to play this weekend, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's done. Yeah, so go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's been discussed this week on other podcasts that, that what we've seen this off season, I think this is going to be the blueprint going forward from now, that realistically what you need to be watching is the controlled scrimmages against against various oppositions to see how the starters are doing. And then the preseason games are going to be to see what you have in the way of depth and who's going to be filling out the bottom of the roster. Yeah. There always has been an element of that, but you're not going to see it. I don't think we're going to see Dak Prescott suiting up this game. It's not going to. You're not going to have a dress rehearsal game. They've done all the work the last couple of weeks against this opposition, and the last 2 nights in front of a crowd in the center.
Yeah, and it's in AT&T, so home crowd.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, more than anything, I think the big thing going off the back of the Tyron Smith tour, I think the big thing that they're trying to do in this game is just get through without being injured.
Yep.
That's the biggest one. There's a couple of guys you can say, hopefully we get to see them, but you're not really concerned that they are or not. Like, I think Dennis Houston plays. Like, this will be a little tester to see what goes on. The only trouble with Dennis Houston is that his strongest strength, if you like, for what he can do is that him and Dak seem to be on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, and
he
doesn't have that with the other. He doesn't have that with the other QBs.
No, yeah, I would say so. It's going to be about that, getting through without injuries. And I think kicking's going to be important too. Let's find out what's going on with the kicker. But right, we'll finish this off and wrap things up here. What are your predictions for this weekend's game? Go on, Rich.
I think there's going to be a fair amount of interesting plays made, like big flash plays. I think there's going to be 1 or 2 ints. I think there's going to be a couple fumble recoveries from people that we want to see them from specifically, not naming any specific names. You kind of know. I really just want to see who really splashes out those 2 wide receivers and out the running backs. I really do. I love those 2 battles, and they're both going to be important because this season the wide receiver core, you got a name and a bunch of guys until Gallup comes back, and the way that they say if they do, they're going to use Pollard. That third running back is going to be very, very influential as well.
And
so whoever gets it is going to have a pretty decent crack at the season. In fairness, decent amount of snaps. So,
I just want to very quickly talk though about Joe over from Italy. One of the faithful Yukis always joins. Says he likes to see the starting offense play at least 1 quarter. Here is a harsh reality of removing a preseason game and adding it to the regular season. that preseason for your starting players, like pure starters, like the starting offense, that preseason for those guys now are weeks 1 to 3 in the regular season. That's the new reality.
Well, I think that's why they have put so much emphasis on these joint practices. McCarthy said a couple of times, this is the starters preseason. This is what they're doing to knock the rust off. It'll be interesting to see how well that works.
Yeah, Lorne. So give me some predictions for this weekend.
I think Seattle's going to come out. They're going to come out firing all guns blazing. I think they always go into preseason matches. They're looking for the win more than anything else. I mean, you saw that year that Tony Romo went out, and the hits that they were putting on Ezekiel Elliott. That game. They're gonna come out firing. I can see our defense is going to obviously have a field day. I think I don't rate Drew Lock at all. I don't, and there is talk that he will be starting this game because they still haven't truly set on Drew Lock being the starter for this.
I was going to say that makes sense for them, mind.
Yep. So it could certainly going to be a defensive struggle, I think. Unless we can get something going and get some, it's going to be focused on the run, and hopefully see a little bit of what's happening with the tackles. But it's hard to say. Cowboys don't put a lot of emphasis on the preseason in terms of actually getting the wins. They'd rather, tighten up the little mistakes or, work on the coaching points. And as long as they're getting better progressively, that's the main thing for them.
And I think getting through without injuries. Like, let's see what turns up. Is the other one. I will be up live watching it. It might be on the Pick Six show. Depends how much beer I drink tomorrow. I was supposed to be on it last week, but the weather was very, very nice, and I ended up having way too many beers. And it got to 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I am in no fit state to be talking. I will just let them down gently, tell them I'm going to sleep. So I won't do that this week. I will just have a couple of beers.
So it's a bit like you were a bit like Paul probably is right about now. Then,
it depends.
Well, that's what Mike was saying earlier. What Mike was saying earlier about consistency on the offensive line. That's how we know Paul's not watching, because he loves that, and he would have chimed in if he was watching. So.
All right, then let's wrap this one up. Good news before we go anywhere is Brian and the gang are going to be back. Might even be Rich going back on again. I don't know.
We'll see how you feels. Lucky people.
Tuesday, because the plan for tonight was supposed to be a Predict the 53. So much has happened that's gone completely out the window in typical Cowboys fashion. So next week on Tuesday will be a look at the 53 or initial 53, because it's very easy to say there's a 53, but what usually starts off as, this is the 53-man roster, very, very quickly changes once players get through waivers and people pick other people's players up.
Exactly.
Waivers. Yeah. So the initial 53 is what they look at on Tuesday. So then we go back to 2 weeks. 2 shows a week, every Tuesday and every Thursday. So that's right. Yeah, that is starting from next week. So you'll get us twice a week, maybe more, depending on what's happening. But here we go, Lorne. Go on. You have a stab at this one. It's all yours, baby. Hit me with it.
Right. Okay. Obviously, season's almost upon us. Hopefully, you've got your plans sorted. But if you suddenly hit the lottery this weekend and you fancy going across for a game, obviously check out Cowboys Experience for the ultimate meet and greets, stadium tours, game tickets, tailgate, and much more. Get to meet former players Drew Pearson, Randy White, Jay Novacek, meet some of the current stars, you know, and just have a great time. Mention the name UK Cowboys, and you'll probably get some nice goodies as well.
Yeah, you get some free stuff, and obviously there's some other people who join us. Have joined us. All people there are worth a follow, so give them a follow and go say hello. Just let them know that we sent you. So yes, thank you very much for joining us this week. Should be.
Your volume's gone again, Mike. Oh,
It always, whenever I put the outro music on, my microphone decides to have a complete skiz attack. So there we go. I don't know if skiz attack is skiz attack a word?
It is
now.
It may as well be. Yeah. So yes, we'll find out what happens after the weekend. As I say, the guys will be back Tuesday. So make sure you follow us. Follow us on Twitch as well. And the YouTube channel. Give the podcast, if you follow it, give that a quick like and a star rating. We appreciate it. But for myself and the guys, we will be back after the weekend. Have a great weekend, folks. And take it away, Lorne. Rich, let you have the last word.
Yeah, have a great weekend, guys. Catch you next week. And let's go Cowboys. Let's be positive.
Present thoughts. Swing tackle or left guard. Let's go.